everyone, I hope you're doing well. Get comfortable because today's episode is going to be a really important one. We're going to be talking about the essential needs, not just for the horse, but for the rider as well. And I feel like this is something that people don't always fully think about. We talk about riding, jumping, competing, but we don't always stop and ask, what do we actually need to do this properly, safely, and in a way that is fair for the horse? So in today's episode, we're going to break that down properly. Not just the obvious things, but also the deeper side of it. The things that actually make a difference but don't always get talked about because riding isn't just a sport, it's a responsibility. And once you start seeing it that way, everything changes. So let's get into it. Starting with the horse. Now, like I said before, most people immediately think of food, water, and shelter. And yes, those are the basics, but the reality is if you stop there, you're only meeting the minimum. And horses don't need that for the minimum to actually thrive. One of the biggest things is movement. Horses are not designed to stand still for hours. In their natural environment, they are constantly moving, constantly grazing, constantly interacting with their surroundings. So when we keep them unstable for long periods, even if for practical reasons, we have to balance that out. Turnout isn't just nice to have, it's essential. It allows them to move freely, release energy, and mentally reset. And you can actually see the difference. A horse that gets enough turnout is usually more relaxed, more willing, and just happier overall. Whereas a horse that's stuck inside too much can become tense, frustrated, or even develop habits like weaving or box walking. And those behaviors aren't bad behavior, they're signs that something isn't quite right. Another important thing is social interaction. Horses are herd animals, which means they rely on each other for safety and comfort. Being around the other horses isn't just something they enjoy, it's something they need. Even small things like mutual grooming or just standing near each other helps them feel secure. So when a horse is just kept alone for too long, it can actually affect their mental state. They might become anxious, reactive, or shut down. And sometimes people mistake that for attitude when really is just the horse trying to cope. Now, feeding. This is where things get little bit more detailed. Horses are built to graze for most of the day, which means their digestive system works the best when they're eating small amounts continuously. That's why forage like hay or grass should always be the main part of their diet. It keeps their digestive system healthy and also gives them something to do, which helps prevent boredom. And something people don't always think about is how feeding links to behavior. And horse that isn't getting enough forage can become stressed or even more reactive on the saddle, whereas a horse with consistent balanced diet is usually more settled and focused. Water is something that sounds simple, but it's also absolutely essential. Horses need constant access to clean, fresh water, especially in hot weather or after exercise. Even slight dehydration can affect their performance and overall health. Now let's talk about physical care and a bit more deeply. Hoof care, like I mentioned before, is critical. Regular farriers keep the hooves balanced and healthy, but it's not just about routine, it's about prevention. Catching small issues early can stop them from becoming serious problems later. Grooming also plays a bigger role than people realize. Yes, it keeps the horse clean, but it also helps you awareness. And when you groom regularly, you start to notice the small changes. A bit of swelling, a cut, a sensitivity in certain area, and those small observations can make a huge difference. And something I really want to emphasize is comfort. Everything we do, how we handle the horse, how we tack up, how we ride, should come back to that question. Is the horse comfortable? This is where tack comes in again, because even though we're going to deeper into the next episode, it's a part of the horse's essential needs. A well-fitted saddle, a properly adjusted bridle, these things allow the horses to move freely and do their job without pain. But if something doesn't fit right, it can completely change how the horse feels and performs. And the thing is, horses don't just show pain in obvious ways. Sometimes it's subtle, like resistance, stiffness, or just change in attitude. So as riders, we have to be really aware, really honest about what we're seeing. Now moving on to the rider, because this is just as important. A lot of people think riding is mainly about skill, and yes, skill matters, but there's so much more into that. Being a good rider isn't just about what you can do, it's about how you think, how you react, and how you understand your horse. Let's start with safety again, but let's go a bit deeper this time. Wearing a helmet isn't just a rule, it's protection. And choosing the right gear, like proper boots and comfortable clothing, helps you stay secure and balanced. Because if you're uncomfortable or unstable, it affects everything. But beyond physical safety, there also is awareness. Knowing your surrounding, understanding a horse's mood, recognizing when something feels up, these are all part of being a responsible rider. Now let's talk about position and balance, because this is something that connects directly to the horse. Your position affects how the horses move. If you're unbalanced, the horse has to compensate. If your hands are too harsh or your legs are unclear, the horse gets mixed signals. So one of the biggest needs for a rider is control, not over the horse but over themselves. Being able to stay calm, balanced and consistent, that's what allows a horse to trust you. And trust is a big part of this. Horses are incredibly sensitive. They pick up on your energy, your emotions, and even your confidence level. If you're nervous, they feel if you're nervous, they feel it. If you're calm and clear, they respond to that too. Another important thing is patience. I know that sounds simple, but it's actually one of the hardest things because we all want progress. We all want to improve, to jump high, to get better quickly, but horses don't work like that. They learn step by steps, and sometimes they need time to understand what we're asking. And this is where empathy comes in. Instead of asking, why is your horse doing this, we should be asking, does the horse understand what I'm asking? Or is it something making this difficult for them? That small shift in thinking changes everything. Knowledge is a huge part of being a rider. Understanding basic care, knowing how to tack up properly, recognizing signals or discomfort or stress, these are the essential because riding doesn't start when you get on a horse, it starts way before that. And something I think is really important, especially as you improve, is staying open to learning. No matter how experienced you are, there's always more to understand. Horses will always teach you something new if you're willing to listen. When you put all this together, you start to see that essential needs of a horse and a rider are completely connected. One affects the other all the time, and a horse that feels safe, comfortable, and understood will perform better, and a rider who is aware, patient, and prepared will create a better experience for the horse. So it's not just about riding, it's about the relationship behind it. I think that's the main message of today's episode. If you focus on the essentials, the real essentials, not just the basics, you build something stronger, not just better riding, but a better partnership. So next time you're around your horse or even thinking about riding, take a moment to consider all of this. Not what you're just doing, but how and why you're doing it. That's it for today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it and maybe took something away from it. In the next episode, we're going to be focusing on more on tack, especially different types of saddles and how they affect both horse and rider. So definitely stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!